Have you ever wondered why some common ADHD medications don't work for all children? If so, you want to stay tuned because that's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm Dana Kay, a board-certified holistic health and nutrition practitioner, and I specialize in working with families all across the USA and helping them with their children with ADHD, helping them to naturally reduce those challenging ADHD symptoms. Now, if you haven't already done so, I want to invite you to hit that subscribe button down below. I release new videos several times a week, so by hitting subscribe, you're guaranteeing you won't miss any of them. So let's get started. I certainly wondered about why medication didn't always work years ago when we were trying to find that right one for my son Oliver. And, it felt like every medication was the wrong one for him. Either it had no effect or it actually made things worse instead of better. And it felt like we were just guessing most of the time. And to be honest, we probably were. We weren't looking inside his body at the deficiencies and attempting to improve these deficiencies. We were just treating the symptoms, putting a Band-Aid on them. Now, in my experience, that is the most common reason many medications don't work, because they're not actually getting to the underlying stressor. They're just treating symptoms. I'm reminded of one family I recently worked with. The mum's name was Amber, and Amber worked with doctors and other professionals for years, but didn't see results with them because they didn't dig deep enough. They were just using medication to mask symptoms, but were never actually getting to the bottom of what was causing the issues in the first place. It was only when she started working with us and we did functional lab testing that we finally dug deep enough to discover the underlying stressors and finally getting to those stressors that were aggravating her daughter's ADHD symptoms. Amber and her family saw so many amazing changes. One of the biggest changes they saw was an improvement in sleep. It is very common for children with ADHD to struggle with sleep. And what I have found in working with over 1,000 families affected by ADHD is that often there is an underlying stressor that is contributing to the sleep disturbances. And that's exactly what was going on with Amber's daughter. Once we figured out the underlying stressor in her daughter's body, the sleep challenges improved on their own. So let me ask you, how would your life be different if you and your child got a full night's sleep daily? How would your life change if you were able to figure out not just how to mask symptoms or put a Band-Aid on the symptoms, but also how to really get to the bottom of what's driving the symptoms so that we can improve that underlying stressor and get rid of those ADHD symptoms for good? My son was like a totally different child once we discovered the underlying stresses in his body, and then we worked to reduce them through targeted supplementation and lifestyle changes and opening up detoxification pathways. So you're probably asking, how do we identify the underlying stressor? Well, we do this through functional lab testing. So if you'd like to learn more about functional lab testing, check out the video description below, because I'm going to post a link to a video I did on functional lab testing right there. So we use functional lab testing to help us figure out the underlying stressors. And then we use targeted supplementation that's specific to that individual child to reduce those stresses. Hope this is making sense so far. If you have any questions, go ahead and pop those into the comments below and I'll come back and answer them. Now, I like to think of a child's symptoms kind of like a fire, a house fire, okay? For years, I believed that the only way to reduce ADHD symptoms was through medication. But really, using medication is kind of like shooting a water hose at the smoke instead of the fire. When a house fire breaks out and the emergency responders arrive, they don't aim their hoses at the smoke. They aim them at the fire. They know that if they get that fire out, the smoke will eventually dissipate. And it's exactly the same way with our children's ADHD symptoms. If we aim for the fire, in our case, the inflammation in the body and the underlying stresses in the body, the smoke or the symptoms will eventually dissipate. But if all we do is flood the smoke with water, we're never actually even touching the problem below. So let's stop shooting water at smoke and start getting it to the underlying stresses so we can finally put out that fire and rebuild that house. I mentioned earlier about Amber and how she was able to finally fix her daughter's sleep issues once they dug deep through functional lab testing. Amber actually shared her story not too long ago, and I want to share that with you because it is so powerful. I'm going to pop that link to that video into the video description below as well so that you guys can check it out. Now, in this video, you'll get to meet Amber. She is a mum of a child with ADHD who discovered how to get to the bottom of her daughter's challenging ADHD symptoms. I know you'll find her story super encouraging. I hope that you found this video helpful, and if you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to reach out. Bye for now.